today's video, we're going to be reacting to The Truth About Myth. Now, this video is made by Timmy FMBR, who makes some amazing Fortnite documentaries. I will leave a link to his channel in my description below, and let's get into the video.
This is Myth,
Myth.
one of
Let's go.
Fortnite's biggest
Oh my
streamers
gosh.
and one of the
400
biggest
million
gaming
views.
content creators of all time. From crazy trick shots to becoming a Fortnite millionaire,
Heck
and then
yeah.
falling off and losing his entire audience in less than 6 months.
Okay.
This is the entire rise and fall
I think
of
he just low-key
TSM
hates Fortnite.
Myth. Ali Myth Kabani was born on May 24th of 1999 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And although he started gaming early on at just 4 years old, Myth wouldn't get into streaming and content creation until much later on when he turned 17. Like I said, he had been into gaming at a very young age, but he never really saw it as a career path. Myth had always loved League of Legends, but just saw it as something to spend his free time on. However, after he started playing a game called Paragon, he decided to turn on his stream, and things actually went better than he imagined. Surprisingly, Myth managed to pull in an average of around 50 viewers on his streams very early on.
That's
and
good.
although that doesn't sound like a ton of viewers, there are a huge amount of people that stream to 1, 2, 3, or even 0 viewers
don't call
for
out all
a
these
long
people.
time before they get a ton of viewers. So for a kid who was just turning on his stream for fun, 50 viewers probably felt amazing. Myth would go on to play some bigger games, starting in September of 2017 when a little game named Fortnite was released to the public. Myth and hundreds and thousands of other creators hopped on this massive trend.
Absolutely.
Oh, I feel the rhythm, and it makes me want to dance.
Myth transitioned his fairly small audience on Twitch over to his Fortnite streams,
That's
and
dope.
let's just say he was grinding.
Nice.
20, baby, let's go.
20 bombs? Hell yeah.
Get it.
Myth was one of the first ever players to really see the vision for what Fortnite could become.
Right.
So he decided to not only master streaming, but also the gameplay as well, and try and become a top tier player. He got very good at building and editing and aiming before anybody else was really taking the game seriously. Quickly, his audience of 50 viewers doubled to almost 100 average
that's
as soon as he started
crazy.
playing Fortnite. And on top of his audience growing, he was becoming well known as one of the best Fortnite players in the world.
Nice.
And at the time, he was even being compared to the GOAT Ninja. And the thing about
Facts, I
Fortnite
remember
is
that.
that it didn't hit its peak in 2017, growing, and so did Myth's Twitch stream. But the
Nice.
real rise of Myth was just around the corner. But before I tell you about that, I do have to tell you about the only video game that I'm actually good at, Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh, no,
And luckily
Timmy.
for you guys, Raid has an epic event coming up for you. The Asgard Divide runs from August 21st to November 22nd, and players are able to collect 4 champions based on Norse mythology. Loki the Deceiver, the Master of Chaos, Thor Feyhammer, the Harbinger of the Storm, Odin Feyfather, the Lord of Asgard, and Freya Fateweaver, the Golden Defender of Asgard. These characters fit right into Raid's lore, casting them as members of the mysterious and powerful Fae in the world of Teleria. As part of the Asgard Divide, players can also enter the Event Dungeon, a limited time dungeon only available during this event where you can face off the almighty Odin Feyfather himself. Anyone and everyone could unlock the legendary champion Loki the Deceiver for free by simply logging onto Raid for 7 days in between now and October 23rd. And it's simple, the more days that you log in, the more rewards you're gonna get. You guys are definitely not gonna wanna miss out on this crazy event. I know you guys have probably heard about Raid Shadow Legends a lot on YouTube, but I've been playing it for a while now and I'm absolutely in love with this game. If any of this sounds awesome, click the link in my description or scan the QR code on your screen right now, and if you join through my link, you'll immediately get a huge starter pack with the Epic Champion Annex. And once you guys hit level 15, you'll get another starter pack with Epic Fame. And remember, these 2 champions are only available for my fans through the link below. Once you guys download the game, make sure you come find me and join my clan, and please join. I really need some friends. Like, guys, really. Seriously. Anyway, thank you so much to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it.
The Rise
You
of
see,
Myth,
Myth
Chapter
had
2.
been grinding for months on end, and it was finally time for him to really pop off and see the spotlight for the first time ever. Myth's big break came when he ran into Summit 1G in a Fortnite game
okay, I know
and
this story.
actually beat him pretty bad.
Let's go, baby! Good fight, Summit. I like that.
At the time, Summit was not only a massive streamer, but really popular in Fortnite too, so
Okay.
the clip went insanely viral right away. Myth was this underground streamer who people didn't really know, and he had just
That's
crushed one of the
crazy.
biggest streamers in the scene at the time. At this point, though,
wearing a
Myth was
shirt.
really starting to see his hard work pay off. He went from 100, 200, or 300 viewers to now averaging over 1,000
gosh,
viewers
dude.
every single stream.
That's
His work
insane.
was paying off, and the rise was imminent, no doubt. He was growing even faster than he ever thought possible, and was gaining tens of thousands of followers month after month. That being said, however, Myth would hit the first bump in his career,
Okay.
and that was his family. Although Myth was very quickly seeing success, he did go on the record as saying his mom wasn't exactly supportive of his streaming career.
I
Okay.
was very, very mean about it. I was constantly arguing with him to go back to school. Well, he graduated. Well, right before he graduated high school, I don't know if they told you, that he called an intervention meeting, and it was right after he was accepted to Wayne State, which is the downtown Detroit University. Was so excited, and he told
Dang.
us that he wasn't going to pursue it, and he wanted to pursue gaming, and I went nuts. Like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
almost started crying.
But with the family drama set aside, Myth knew that he needed to capitalize on this opportunity and stop it from becoming just one of those 5 minutes of fame, and instead
Dang.
launch it into a massive career. And one of the ways that he decided to do this was by joining a professional esports team. In January 2018, he would sign to one of the biggest teams in the
TSM.
entire world, Team Solo Mid, better known as TSM. And not only did they sign him as a content creator, but also as a professional Fortnite player. And I think that's something people forget
dope.
about Myth. I know I've said it a couple times already, but he was really good at the game. Compared to the 14-year-olds drinking G Fuel cranking 90s today,
Oh,
maybe
God.
he's not that good, but
Right.
at this point in the game, he was definitely a top tier player and would go on to get some earnings in tournaments. Although it was very early on in Myth's career and in Fortnite's legacy, he definitely was starting to make himself a legend in the game. Myth was constantly
crazy.
gaining viewership and getting better and better at Fortnite. But as I alluded to at the beginning of this video, these really good things happening for Myth wouldn't last forever. And as some of you may or may not know, Myth is in a very different spot than he was back in 2018 today.
Right.
And I'm going to get to more of that later, so stick around to the end of the video to hear more about what happened to Myth. Anyways, let's keep going because Myth signed with TSM, and because of this, he got to collaborate with much bigger creators, and as many of you know, Myth would get the opportunity to play with Ninja.
Nice.
And with Ninja being the biggest Fortnite streamer and really
Ooh.
biggest streamer of all time at this point,
Ooh.
Myth's streams started to blow up like never before. And outside of being an awesome pro player who understood mechanics, people also really started to take a liking to Myth's personality.
On top of that, being a personality and a brand that I could extend and push
my God, look at
out
that PC.
more than Fortnite, if I could, make somebody's day, show somebody that, things don't always have to be as dark as they may seem. Help people work on themselves.
Nice, man. An early decline.
Now,
Chapter
things
3.
seem to be going great for Myth. Like I said, he was playing in tournaments, playing with Ninja, and playing for one of the biggest esports teams in the world.
Right.
But things weren't going to stay that way. See, even though Myth was entertaining,
Woo,
like I
nice.
said before, what really separated him from the others was that he was actually very, very good at the game.
Okay.
And I think that's a big reason why people were tuning into his streams day in and day out. But around
He's
this
correct.
time, turbo building was added to the game, and it allowed a lot of random players to catch up to him skill-wise. For those of you that don't know, turbo building is basically a way that you can build a lot faster than you used to be able to in Fortnite, and it severely lowered the skill gap from the then pro players to your average everyday Timmy.
Okay.
Get it, Timmy? Okay. No more jokes for me. Myth
Timmy,
started
stop,
to
dude.
fall off, I guess you could say, when people realized that he wasn't the best at the game anymore. And when I say he wasn't the best, I'm being kind of nice. I mean, at the end of the day, Myth was on the older side for a professional Fortnite player, and he really could not keep up at all. Reddit and Twitter were constantly talking about Myth falling off and saying that he just wasn't nearly as good as he used to be.
That's
but
messed
in
up.
reality, everyone else had just gotten a lot better. It wasn't that Myth got worse, he just couldn't figure out how to keep up. But don't get me wrong, it wasn't like things fell apart overnight for Myth. I mean, he still averaged 30 to 40,000 viewers per stream in 2018.
Insane. That's insane.
And back then, that was insane and almost unheard of. But things were gonna turn quite rough for him soon, heading to a Las Vegas competition for a massive Fortnite tournament. But sadly, Myth's performance at this tournament was subpar at best. And at one point, Myth even died to fall damage in a build battle during the tournament.
Yikes.
Which just showed he wasn't quite at the peak of his performance.
I wanted it, I wasn't contested, and then as the circle kind of shifted away from the hill, I decided to, there was a player playing underneath me, so we got into a little skirmish, and then off the side of the hill, I encountered one of the rarest bugs in the game, which is when you make an edit or build something, it will just fling you off. And so that happened, and it was really unfortunate.
In fact, this fall off that people had been talking about on social media seemed to be partially coming true. After this Las Vegas event, Myth's viewership started to steadily decline. By September of 2018, his average viewers were around 19,000. And again, like I said before, do not get me wrong at all. That is an incredible amount of viewers to have on a stream. But when you're comparing it to 38,000, which was what he was averaging just a few months ago, he basically lost half of his audience. But this wasn't it for Myth. He still had fuel in the tank and was dedicated to making this work for as long as he possibly could. Myth at this time wasn't too happy with how his Fortnite streams were going. He wasn't enjoying the game nearly as much as we've said, and because he wasn't as good at it, that probably played a big factor. Because of this, he decided he would venture out into other games,
Warzone,
which is pretty common. When you look at people like Ninja and Tim the Tatman and Nick Merckx, a lot of these Fortnite streamers decided that they wanted to do something else, which is totally okay.
Absolutely.
But when you switch games, you do run the risk of losing your audience.
The whole
and
audience.
when Myth decided to try out Rainbow Six Siege and Battlefield, his audience didn't seem to enjoy it as much as his Fortnite streams. Because just a few months later, after switching games, Myth went from averaging those 30 to 40,000 viewers down to the 18,000 viewers, and now 6,000 viewers. Again, amazing numbers, but not for somebody who was doing 5 times those views just a few months ago. So with this drop, Myth decided that he had to head back to Fortnite. And honestly, it didn't really do much for him. I think at this point, people could tell that Myth wasn't enjoying the game. And these viewers didn't come back, at least not right away. And we'll talk a little bit more about his resurgence in a second. But this massive drop definitely took a toll on Myth's mental health. I can only imagine being a content creator that size must be incredibly tiring. You have to make sure that everybody likes you and enjoys your content. With all this being said, Myth had to make the decision. Was he going to stick with Fortnite, a game that he really had fallen out of love with, or commit to finding a new game that his audience would either love or hate? But just like he had his entire career, Myth persevered and had to fight back. And if you guys remember back at the beginning of this story, that's exactly how Myth blew up in the first place, by finding Fortnite.
A great resurgence, chapter 5.
Except on this time, he would get in even earlier and hop on and master this brand new game. And that was his exact plan with the release of Valorant in 2020. Starting off on Valorant, his streams were seeing a lot of success, and his passion and motivation was stronger than ever. I think this is a huge reason why his viewers went up. In April of 2020, he actually averaged 32,000 viewers, which he hadn't seen in years. In addition, Myth would go on to play Rust and Among Us, which, as you know, was incredibly viral, which really put Myth back on top of the gaming streaming industry faster than we ever could have believed. But once again, Myth would run into troubles with his mental health and burnout. He became incredibly inconsistent with his stream, and viewers wouldn't know when to expect him to go live. And with streaming or YouTube or any other sort of content,
His background is
consistency is a huge key.
Where is he?
You want your audience to know when and where they can find you.
Right.
And Myth, just unhappy with the way that things were going, couldn't seem to find a game or niche or focus where he really wanted to put all of his energy in his content.
Continued decline.
Sadly,
Chapter 6.
Myth's revival didn't last too long, and from here on out, things would be pretty much downhill from the once great Fortnite pro. Myth decided to sign an exclusive contract with YouTube Gaming.
Right.
And as I mentioned earlier, Myth started streaming on Twitch, which means that the years of time he spent building an audience kind of all went away when he signed those YouTube
That's
papers.
weird, though.
And while his
Right.
audience was excited and hyped for the initial announcement, as you might have guessed,
Right.
it wasn't quite a great idea for long-term growth.
Right.
Although we don't know the exact amount, Myth definitely got a nice check from YouTube to come on over and stream on their platform. But this would turn out to be one of the worst decisions that Myth could have made for his career. Shortly after this decline when moving to YouTube, Myth would actually go on to release a reflective video addressing the decline of his career and viewership. Myth would go on to say it was basically because he wasn't able to maintain peak level skills in Fortnite, and that he also wasn't ready for his really sudden rise to fame. And that
Especially
goes
like,
back to
try
what we
go
were
to
talking
zero
about
build
earlier
and, like,
with mental
be
health and
goated off of
burnout.
that.
Going from being a 17-year-old kid who plays games in his parents' basement to being one of the biggest celebrities on the internet overnight can be really, really stressful. And I think this is something we've seen with a lot of people in Myth's position. With so many people sharing their opinions about Myth and watching his every move, it must have been a challenge to turn on his stream every day, regardless of how much money he was making. And like I said before, this new deal for streaming on YouTube exclusively paid him a ton of money.
Yeah.
But the
I think
cost
just
that it would
recently ended,
have
too.
on his long-term career,
2025
well, that wouldn't be worth
or
any
2025 right
paycheck
now.
that he would ever receive. That being said, Myth still once again had fuel left in the tank. He knew he needed to take his brand in a new direction and try something completely different.
Good for him,
So Myth began creating content focused on helping aspiring creators with advice from his years of experience of streaming and making videos online. But at the end of the day, Myth, like many of us on this channel, are just true gamers. And that is where the next part of Myth's career would start.
Gasp.
No!
Poopies.
Oh, good fight. I couldn't get my pump out.
Myth returned to Fortnite, the game that had made him famous in the first place, and he did actually see some returning viewers. He was averaging around 3,000 viewers on these Fortnite streams, but Myth just really didn't enjoy the game. So with that, once again in this long story of ups and downs, Myth decided to move to a new game and play Call of Duty. And these small amount of viewers that he had managed to bring back just left again. Even though Myth might not be as big as he once was, he still had an insanely successful career in gaming, and specifically Fortnite. Myth continues to stream to this day, but he just decided to start ignoring the numbers and doing what he loved again. Playing R6 and CSGO from time to time, as well as whatever other game he wanted to play.
Okay.
And listen, his videos and streams did not get nearly as many views as they used to, but at least he was still grinding and enjoying what he was doing. And that also was going to change, because just recently, Myth would go on to post a video about him taking an official break because his contract with YouTube streaming had ended.
This entire journey that I'm on with content creation and streaming has begun from a belief in self, and I just want to extend that as one final note to you guys as well. Whatever it is out there, you got to believe in yourself and you got to chase it, man.
Honestly, I
Okay.
think everyone has probably seen this
I
coming
believe.
for the last few careers. No matter what you think of Myth, though, he's no doubt one of the best gamers in the history of the world.
I can agree with
and
that.
specifically one of the best Fortnite players to touch the game. On top of that, he's had a lasting impact and inspired so many people, myself included, to make some amazing content and play the games that they love.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I hope Myth is doing great. I hope he enjoys his break, and if he's watching this video, I really hope to see you come back to Fortnite sometime soon, and if not, I hope you come back to doing whatever you love.
Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. And if there's a video you want to see, let me know down in the comments below. Peace.